Hi, I'm Kristen Griego with Edwards Instrument Company, and today I'm here with Austin.
I am Austin Pancner.
Thanks for being here today. Can you tell us why you came in today?
Yeah, so I came in today because I wasn't happy with my instrument alignment. I wasn't getting the sound I wanted. I was working a lot harder than I needed to.
Now, alignment, what do you mean by that? Like your spine?
Like, kind of. I just felt like something was off. Maybe something in the horn was working too hard, creating some tension that didn't need to be there.
Okay, where were you feeling it?
In my trigger range, in my lower range.
And we've been working now for a few hours. We're a little brain tired here, so bear with us. But yeah, going through this process, what do you think we found?
I found some equipment. We honed in on something that made my sound a lot more stable, a lot more centered, especially in the low register. I don't have to work as hard, I don't really have to think as much, and I don't have to manipulate my face to make things work.
Now, what we were going through things, and we were working on mouthpiece and lead pipe a lot, and then all of a sudden I kind of had a moment of clarity in my brain, which happens every now and then, and we were able to dial in a bell that added depth of sound and added stability. And that was an area you were working with mouthpieces before to try and get. Can you tell me about that process?
Yeah, so I've been going down this mouthpiece rabbit hole for, 2 or 3 years. And over the course of 3 years, I started with, let's say a 1.5, and I eventually worked all the way up to a 1G. Various, things or various factors that I've experimented with, and I
And those are Greg Blacks.
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a 1G, and I went from a 1 1/8 G with a lightweight shank.
Okay.
And I don't know, I just felt
Not shank, lightweight body, I think. Right?
lightweight body, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And I don't know, I was just trying to get a bigger sound, and I was going down this rabbit hole of mouthpieces that every time I went to a little bit of a mouthpiece, it would improve for about 4 weeks, and then it would kind of stagnate, and some things wouldn't work as well, and that's kind of where I was at.
Now, when you say bigger, do you mean wider?
When I say bigger, I just mean like a bigger size. So, for example, I started off with like a 1.5, went to 1 3/8.
But what were you trying to achieve sonically?
I was just trying to get a bigger sound. I like to use warmth, core, and brilliance. That's a term that Jim Markey likes to say. And I don't know, I just thought my sound was too brittle with a smaller mouthpiece.
Actually, what I found working with you, what you liked was more depth of sound. When I gave you a thickness in like an undercurrent of honey, if you will, or just chocolate, just this richness, then it rounded off really nicely, and then you were more content with what was being produced. And so bigger can be round, it can be width, and so you have to kind of qualify in the sound what you're after, either in round, like spin this way, or east-west, north-south or east-west. And so when we actually got you stable, and then things stabilized on your face too. Can you talk about the feeling that you got towards the end?
Yeah, and what you say to describe sound, the word depth, 100%. I resonate with that. And it makes sense the way you described it. I would call it, going back to warmth, core, and brilliance, that's like the warmth and a little bit of core that I was lacking, that I thought I could make up for it in a mouthpiece. But when we switched over to that heavier bell, what happened is I got that depth of sound without actually having to manipulate things in my face to make that work, or maybe overblow in a way that made my pitch rise a lot higher.
And you don't know this, but we actually kept the same bell. We just went to a thicker gauge.
Gotcha.
So that's how I maintain your sound within a thicker gauge. So I didn't want to change your approach or your sound concept that you've worked hard to develop to this point. So I always talk to people about their other interests. What are some of your other? You have a side hustle.
I do have a side hustle, yes. I run The Functional Musician. I launched this about 3 years ago, and essentially I help musicians overcome tension, pain, and injury.
So through this process, what made you want to get into this side of the music field?
Yeah, I went through a pretty bad injury. I don't know if you remember, but I'm pretty sure I probably visited here at some point. Despite seeing, 9 different medical professionals, I was still falling in this injury cycle. And it just kind of led me down this path, pursuing options in personal training, biomechanics, and movement and mobility, and just trying to find something that would work for me. And I did. And now I'm fortunate enough to help other musicians in that same light who are struggling.
That's fantastic. And can you talk a little bit about finishing college and what you found in the real world and how that led you to where you're at now?
Yeah, well, the first thing first was it was kind of like COVID happened, and then I launched the Functional Musician, and I was grateful in that, in a sense where very quickly I was able to find success in what I do. So I am very fortunate enough to make a living with the Functional Musician, and that's offered me a lot of liberty in pursuing music in a way that I haven't been able to before, and that's taking the financial pressure off of it. So that allows me the opportunity to go and take auditions and go up to this factory and hone in on my concept. Because honestly, being in that injury cycle and with where I'm at now, it's like I still feel like I'm a little bit behind because that's 3 years of my education I really couldn't take advantage of, 3 years of improvement I couldn't take advantage of. So I still feel like I'm playing a little bit of catch up, but now it's different in the sense that I love the trombone. I love what I do. And it's actually really cool to see the complementary side of things from health and wellness to myself as a musician, as well as working with other people. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And that's a topic people don't talk a lot about, is how many musicians burn out during the college years and learn to hate music. And some never recover from it. And we get into this field for the love of resonance, the way it makes us feel when we're in an ensemble playing chords. It's a beautiful thing. And you always have to remind yourself of that and keep that beauty involved, because you can burn out. And you were talking to me about how you were practicing so much, and then it becomes, I remember a piano player telling me that when he totally burned out, and he went to violin actually, but playing piano, he got to where all he would hear, he no longer heard the notes. He only heard the hammers hitting the strings. Ooh. And it got to a point where he had to stop playing piano because of that. And going to another instrument allowed him freedom and to get back into music, which is kind of interesting. But I think that's one of the things, as we have to be careful to protect ourselves emotionally through the process so that we maintain that love. And I love what I do here. I love helping people, working with people, and trying to find solutions for whatever is growing in their horn.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and I feel a lot more confident leaving today, knowing I'm one step closer to the sound concept in my head.
And what about the stuff growing in your horn? Do you want to talk about
that? I don't want to talk about it, but I will give a piece of advice: clean your instruments.
We just ate lunch,
regularly.
So now it's kind of, sorry to bring it up right after lunch, but
yeah, lesson learned. Yeah.
Well, I didn't take any pictures because I know you're engaged now, correct?
Yes.
So congratulations. We'll never talk about that with your...
Yeah, please don't let Becca know.
I will say this many times, and I have professional musicians that come here once a year, or to adjust their instrument sonically, or to make sure that things are correct and not growing in the lead pipe.
Yeah.
Or I will say this: anytime you have inert matter in the lead pipe slide, it changes the bore, and it's soft, gushy stuff, which stops resonance.
Yeah.
And so I feel like right now, when you're leaving, your instrument's back to being completely resonant and a higher efficiency.
It is, yeah.
And so I'm excited to see. We're going 2 stages in this. We're trying the bell right now. I have a lead pipe I'm going to make. The factory's going to make. Excuse me. and then I'm going to get to you. And then sometimes when people come here, it's a little more of a long-term project. And I think right now we're right in that. I mean, I think we're really close, but I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
How this develops.
I mean, I've been looking for this sound for 5-6 years. And I mean, of course you're going to improve on your instrument, whether you're compensating or not, but it's nice to know that some of the things I was going through, it wasn't me struggling through a fundamental problem. It was me going through a fundamental issue with how, the horn was set up, partially my fault, partially wear and tear over time, just a lot of different factors going into play. So it's really nice to know moving forward and just in terms of improvement and going for that sound that I'm one step closer.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with one question.
Okay.
Can you explain mouthpiece gap and how it affects the feel of the instrument from the mouthpiece to lead pipe?
Yeah. Can I use that as an example?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we talked about this at 9 a.m. this morning, so we'll see how much I retain.
I'm putting him on the spot here.
Yeah, okay, so Venturi,
yeah.
Venturi, okay, we got a Venturi. When we enter a shank into a lead pipe, so I came in with a mouthpiece that was shaking a little bit. It wasn't completely intact. So if I were to look at the bottom part of the mouthpiece, you can see that there is a lot of, I would say, just wear and tear. You can see that it's actively connecting with over the whole body of the mouthpiece shank into the lead pipe. And if I have a mouthpiece that goes deeper into the lead pipe, that is going to cause a more free blow. It's going to feel more free blowing.
Correct.
And then the other way, if I go out further, it doesn't go in all the way, that's going to compress my instrument. So it's going to have a lot more compression when the air enters the lead pipe.
Also, the sound will come in and become a little more cylindrical, which
Yeah.
everyone will say they want that until they have it, and then they're like, well, I want more width. Because sometimes you don't know until you have it. And what we actually found, and I was able to dial in the response, is your mouthpiece works a little bit better this way and a little bit better this way, but where it sits in the stock function was not where you liked it the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we get that dialed in, then we could then work on the sound. And so I've gone over this in other videos, and I'm sorry, bear with me. I'm going to keep focusing on it a little at a time until everyone pays attention to it. Because a lot of times people are changing mouthpieces, but not knowing what the inherent issue is.
Yeah.
Which can just be the straight up engagement or how it sits in the receiver of the lead pipe. So I know you've got to get out of here soon. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, thanks for having me here. It's really a pleasure to dial in on my playing and my sound concept, and I look forward to getting used to this horn over the next couple of weeks.
Yep. So we'll include in the links below I'm sorry, say it one more time.
Yeah, The Functional Musician.
Yeah, see, that's a plug right there. Get that. So we're going to put that with links so everyone can find you and information. And if you ever have any need, please look Austin up. So thanks for being here and appreciate it.